What's up, everybody? Alex here for the Impact Factor. We're doing something special this year. Last year, I don't know if you remember, for E3 2015, I did a series of podcasts in which you just got to hear my sultry voice as I talked about each and every press conference. This year for E3 2016, we're doing something a little bit different. And by a little bit different, I actually do mean just a little bit different. You get to see my face. So I will be posting here on this YouTube channel my video reactions. We're going to go with reactions here for each and every of the E3 2016 pressers. That's EA and Bethesda, which are on Sunday, June 12th, as well as Microsoft, PC Gaming Show, Ubisoft, PlayStation on Monday, and that's probably it. Nintendo's not doing anything this year, so I don't know if I feel like talking about them on camera. But these are going to be posted. I'm going to record these at the end of each of these days. So this is currently Sunday night for these first two here to give my kind of live reactions, or as live as I could, to see how I feel about each of these press conferences. So we're going to keep it short, keep it brief. Of course, you can listen to the podcast while you'll hear more fleshed out thoughts about everything E3 2016. If you're not following me on Twitter, you should right away. You can go back through my probably hundreds of tweets from the previous day, but E3 2016 is here. It's exciting. So let's get started with EA. EA was the first of the day. Surprisingly, we started at 1 p.m. Pacific on June the 12th as part of their EA Play initiative, which is the separate event that's not E3, but has a press conference and is just so happens to be around the time of E3. And I gotta say, this one was a total bummer. EA has been bad recently about making press conferences, but I really thought, there was a chance this was the year that they were going to get everything together, have a nice portfolio of games, because there's a lot of cool things coming from EA, but it was just an hour-long letdown. So let's go through what we saw briefly, though it's really, unfortunately, not really worth my time. So the first thing first, at this EA press event, Titanfall 2 came out on stage, which would have been great. We knew Titanfall 2 was coming as part of their fall lineup of games, but unfortunately, it leaked early this morning. E3 2016 has been a lot about leaks. Almost everything has come out as a leak. But we got some information about their single-player campaign as well as a multiplayer demo. It showed off the grappling hooks. The game looks nice. It's coming out October 28th. And I think the most interesting thing about Titanfall 2, aside from the game existing and being real, is it just seems strange for EA to release it at the time that it is. So it's coming out October 28th. This is just weeks away from Battlefield 1. And I know they're very different shooters. They certainly probably appeal to some different people. But it almost seems like Titanfall 2 is being sent out to die, because Battlefield 1 already has this huge hype train, this huge hype engine behind it, given its first reveal trailer and this competition with Call of Duty. And so it seems weird to release Titanfall 2 within the exact same time span. I'm not necessarily on the Titanfall 2 hype train, but it did look good. I do trust the developers over at Respawn, so we got that as well as a new trailer. So then we moved on and had Madden for a long time, and not that I care about Madden necessarily, but the almost entirety of the time they spoke about Madden was in their embrace of esports and competitive leagues versus actually what's new for Madden 17. So that was a bummer. Then Mass Effect Andromeda, the game a lot of us are excited about. We're supposed to see it in a big way here because the tentative release date for Mass Effect Andromeda was Q1 2017, so by March 2017. But we got a behind-the-scenes dev diary again. What is this, E3 2014 again? We saw a couple new snippets of gameplay, maybe some hints at what's going on, but I think this indicates, if you're like me and you're like a lot of these other people who've been talking about this means Mass Effect Andromeda is much further away than we initially anticipated. It's not going to be out in Q1 2017. I'm calling it right now. I'm giving myself prediction points that I made on the Impact Factor podcast. Just a huge bummer. I don't really want to see dev diaries. I want to see gameplay. I want to see some story trailers. I want, it's just there to be something substantive, not that we're working on it and it's coming. Then they spent about 15 minutes talking about FIFA 17. Not much to glean there, other than there's going to be a story mode, and FIFA is FIFA. Probably my highlight of EA's press conference was the announcement of the EA Originals program. So we saw last year with Coldwood Interactive coming out with Yarny and Unravel that EA has started to put some money behind independent games, small indie dev games, and they've now codified it and put it as this EA Originals program. And so it's really cool. We saw the first game of this EA Originals. So it's essentially a program that supports small games, support, fun, give security. Next one is Fe, F-E. It looks all right. It has this kind of, polygonal, almost brothers, Tale of Two Sons story to it, elements, maybe a synesthetic experience, as they said, different elements interact musically or audibly with each other versus with verbally using communication. It looked all right. Maybe not the game to showcase at a big event like E3 right away, but I thought honestly it was the highlight of the show. And then we got EA Star Wars. They talked about Star Wars for a long time, except they said very, very little. Literally every EA-owned studio, it seems, is working on a new Star Wars game, but none of them seemingly are coming out until 2018 or later. The Impact Factor, we had predicted that Amy Hennig and Visceral's new Star Wars game, which has been known about for a long time, we'd get something from, and we did get like a 3 or 5 second snippet of gameplay, but that's it, and it's coming 2018 at the earliest. And again, it was background dev diaries of these Star Wars games, and that to me and everyone else indicates that these games are a long way off and they don't have anything to show. And then they finished it out with Battlefield 1. It looks much the same. They had a 64-player multiplayer match. They kind of confirmed these behemoth vehicles with zeppelins and trains, and there was some other giant vehicle. Oh, battleships. Seems fine. I'm not into Battlefield, but Battlefield 1 kind of what I think was what they wanted to be the marquee show. So overall, very disappointing. It's totally lackluster. The pacing was weird as they switched between their London location and their Los Angeles location, and it was just overall very, very bad. So moving on to Bethesda, as this just happened, it was at 7 p.m. on June the 12th, and this was pretty good. It didn't live up to the highs of last year's first Bethesda press conference ever, but of course you can't announce Fallout 4 every year and have Fallout 4 come out within a couple of months. But we got some really cool things. The first was a surprising reveal from Quake Champions, which PC only, so, well, I guess I'm not going to be playing it. But they're bringing back Quake. It is working on this, so the people who made Doom. It's going to be arena-based, of course, first-person shooter, class-based, multiplayer. They talked some specs, because I guess PC people love the specs. 120 hertz, unlocked frame rates. It looks cool. It's a surprise, and it's good to start a conference off with a surprise. We then got some details about The Elder Scrolls Legends, which is the new card game, and it's coming to phones, which was an announcement, so that means I might actually play it, because I play a lot of Hearthstone since it's on my phone, so I have room for another card game in my life. We got some Fallout 4 DLC talk, we got some Doom DLC talk, but I think the most kind of surprising and exciting thing for me was the re-reveal of Prey 2. We talked about on the podcast how Prey 2 the trademark was renewed and we didn't know what was happening for it. Are we going to see it again? We did. It's been retitled just Prey, but really it's a whole kind of new spin on the whole idea, because Prey 2 was you were this bounty hunter in the far future, cyberpunk. Here it seems like a more subdued, normal, spacey sci-fi, not bounty hunting, not cyberpunk. But it looks cool. I got some serious Soma vibes from it. It was a great trailer. Arcane's making this. And then I think Arcane again stole the show at the end by showing off Dishonored 2. There was a very long series of gameplay demos. They want this really breathing, open, fresh world filled with dense character models, dense histories. I had never played the original Dishonored, though I have it sitting free on my PlayStation 3. I just never got into playing it. But Dishonored 2 looked really great. I think it was a great place to showcase the gameplay. A lot of options. They're setting it up to be their big fall game. It's coming out November 11th, 2016. It looks great. It almost looks great enough for me to really want to play it, but we'll see. We'll see how my fall looks. But then again, a lot of things have moved out of fall, so there could be a lot of options there. And then I guess the last big surprise was that Bethesda is working on internal virtual reality projects. So these VR projects are a Doom VR demo, as well as the more kind of big one is that Fallout 4 is coming fully to VR in 2017 for the HTC Vive. So this is huge. I certainly didn't expect Bethesda to talk about any VR at all, but it's cool that they put the effort. They're making it. They had some playable demos there. So overall, I thought Bethesda was pretty good. They had enough big announcements to get me excited. That the Quake and Prey certainly came out of left field. There's a lot of good stuff. Bethesda is really kind of showing that they have a strong showcase of games, and the first year I questioned why is Bethesda even doing their own press conference, and I think, again, the second year now in a row, they've proven they have a lot of cool things to show, and kind of earn their place at E3. So that does it for the first night. It's a great start to the press conference, and I'm excited for tomorrow morning. I'm going to record that part tomorrow night, but it'll be just concluded right after this, so I'll make be like, hello again. So thanks for watching. Now on to the next press conference. Monday, E3 Monday. We started off with a bang with Microsoft in the morning. And I've got to say now, Microsoft is probably going to be the press conference to beat. I'm recording this before I watch Sony's press conference, so we can see Sony, maybe even Nintendo. But Microsoft did a great job E3 2016 and really kind of blew the Sunday press conferences out of the water. So let's talk about a little bit what Microsoft showed and really just, I think, some of the key messaging that came from Microsoft's press event. So the first thing, it started with the obvious, what had leaked, the Xbox One Slim model. We got some details, up to 2 terabyte internal hard drive, 4K video. It's 40% smaller, which is great because the Xbox One is a gigantic machine. It's white, it has an internal power brick, and it's coming out in August, so this console refresher is soon. There's some mixed details that came out throughout the morning, like does it come with a controller or not? And it is announced it was coming out for $299, which is a great price because that's cheaper than the PS4, and this is a new model, so that's kind of crazy. But then it was kind of confirmed that this $299 model was for the 500 gigabyte hard drive. So that's not bad, certainly not bad. But start off in a strong way there. And then I think what was kind of a central theme for Xbox's event here was just pacing with games. We got a ton. They started off with their big gun for the fall, which was Gears 4. Part of this Xbox Anywhere program, and that was kind of one of the dogmatic shifts we noticed with this E3 press conference. Nothing is Xbox exclusive anymore. They didn't use Xbox console exclusive anywhere in their console because every game that's coming exclusively to Xbox is also coming to Windows 10 PC. And so this is a huge shift, and so, console exclusives are what typically sell consoles. But they're changing things up and embracing this Xbox Anywhere program, so it's essentially like PlayStation's cross-buy between their platforms. So cross-buy, cross-save, you buy it once, you can play across platforms. Very cool. They showed a gameplay demo. I'm not a Gears of War 4 person, certainly not a Gears of War anything person, but it looked fine. Then they went into Forza Horizons, which looked fine. ReCore, we saw a little bit of a gameplay demo. That was a surprise. I thought ReCore would be a little bit further out, but it's actually coming out this fall in September, so September 13th. That's pretty crazy. Interesting note for that one, it's going to be a $40 game. So I don't know what that says. I'm certainly not someone who's instantly like, oh, it's a budget game. I want to push back against that, actually. I wrote an article about that over on theimpactfactor.blogspot.com. But because of the way things are, it does seem a little bit like it might be a budget game. They're trying to dampen people's expectations for it, but we'll see. Then there's a terrible Final Fantasy 15 boss fight demo. I don't really want to talk about it. Some cool changes coming to Xbox Live in the forms of clubs, looking for group and arena, just some social networking things. I think one of the biggest things, though, that for me was the back-to-back announcements and showing off of Inside. So this is the new game from Limbo creator. I really enjoyed Limbo. Inside, the trailer wasn't great, but it's coming out at the end of this month. It looks great. But I say probably the star of the show was the extended gameplay demo for We Happy Few. So this was teased last year. We didn't get really much about it. But this looks pretty phenomenal. So We Happy Few has this dystopian, Orwellian, 1984 vibe with Big Brother and Happy Pills, and you really should watch the gameplay demo. But I think it was such a smart choice there because it was brisk, and sometimes you get into risky situations when you do these long gameplay demos. But this one looked great. It got a lot of people excited. It's probably the most buzz about thing, other than the end of the press conference, which we'll get to, from the event. And it was really cool. It's coming in July to Xbox One during this preview program. Hopefully it also comes out to PS4. I'm excited for that one. Then we got official confirmation of Gwent, the Witcher card game, and I'm glad they addressed my major concern was Gwent, the card game minigame within Witcher 3 is fun, but it's not really mechanically complex. What made it hard was you had to get the good cards to beat the AI. But once you had those cards, you could just dominate. So they kind of acknowledged that it wasn't necessarily had the skill level they wanted, and they're adding to that in this final release. So I'm excited. It is coming to phones, I think, as well, so that'll be interesting. We saw Tekken 7, Dead Rising 4, Scalebound, Sea of Thieves. All of those were fine, a little bit underwhelming. State of Decay 2, Halo Wars 2. Then the big kahuna burger here, for lack of a better term, I don't know why that came to my head first, was the announcement of the Xbox Project Scorpio. That's right, the rumors were true. We've talked about this on the podcast. Xbox Project Scorpio. This is their new console, and the way they entered this was really interesting. Phil Spencer came out on stage and said this is a world without. They envisioned a world without console generations. They've moved beyond the console generation. So Project Scorpio, we got confirmation essentially of the details that had already leaked. It's got an 8 CPU core. It runs at 6 teraflops. It's VR VR capable out of the box. It has 4K gaming and 4K video, and all of these games across Xbox One, Xbox One S, which is the slim model, and Xbox Project Scorpio are all cross-compatible, and it's coming out holiday 2017. And so this is really interesting because one of I think the messages here is that Xbox has ceded round one of this console war to PlayStation. PlayStation 4 is blowing Xbox One out of the water, but by getting ahead of PlayStation's PS4 Neo or PS4.5 or PS4K, whatever you want to call it here, they're kind of shooting their shots fired at Sony, saying, look, this is how we're defining this new console generation. We challenge you to have a console that's as powerful as the Scorpio, and the Scorpio looks huge. Now I don't know what this does for the Xbox One S versus this. I don't really know who would buy an S when this is coming out next holiday. Sure, it's like a year and a half away, but it's kind of crazy. So I thought Xbox did a great job. They showed a bunch of games, hit boom, boom, boom. They moved fast. They kept the excitement through. I'm not an Xbox gamer, and even I got excited. The way they announced the Xbox Project Scorpio was super artful, very direct, talked about consumers, and really, the way consoles run are changing, and Xbox could be redefining that. Sony is definitely going to be on its heels now with how they announced the Neo. Is the Neo coming out this year like we thought? I don't know. That hasn't been announced yet. I'm sure you'll find out within a couple of minutes on this very video after I do my reaction to Sony's press conference. So yeah, I think Xbox's really was the event to beat here. It was great. I enjoyed it. And I've spent a little bit longer on it probably than I would have liked to, because the PC gaming show was next up, and that was at I think 11:30 a.m. and it was bad. I give the people props for the PC gaming show. They tried. They made it a little bit better. They really kept the pace up. There was a lot of things happening. It's maybe a little bit too overlong at about an hour and 40 minutes. A little bit too long for what they're trying to show here. But it still had that weird style. I get that they're not going for the pomp and circumstance, but really kind of failed to capture my excitement. They showed off games like Dawn of War 3, Clay Entertainment's new game, Oxygen Not Included, Mountain Blade 2, Ark, Lawbreakers. We saw Vampire. Kind of my standout game was Tyranny from Obsidian. We'd heard about this before in kind of a PC Gamer preview, but Tyranny has this ARPG in which you live in a future in which evil has won and you're the tyrant. So that's a really cool premise. And it's by Obsidian, makers of Fallout New Vegas, as well as other great titles. So a lot of pedigree behind that one. That was kind of the best game I saw from this event. And then, of course, we saw new AMD cards and chips and some other games there too, some VR support. But ultimately, I don't really know where the PC gaming show exists in this E3 space. Like, I am all about these more subdued press conferences, these subdued sitting down with developers, letting them talk, letting them show off their demo, a little bit quieter, but it doesn't really fit into the hustle and bustle of E3. And so I would be surprised if we see it in the future, because I just don't know what it really adds to the E3 experience. Next up is Ubisoft. Again, Ubisoft happened at 1 p.m. Pacific time on June 13th and was 2 hours long. That's right, 2 full hours of Ubisoft talking games. And I gotta say, there was a lot in here. This is certainly better than EA, certainly better than PC Gaming Show. Maybe on par with Bethesda, but Ubisoft, they had so many good announcements that just got lost to the noise and lost to being 2 hours long. So what do we see in Ubisoft press conference? They started off with this strange clown and animal dancing to Just Dance 2017. We knew we were going to see it there, but they kind of quickly shuffled it off the stage, so that's always good. Then there's a very extended demo for Ghost Recon Wildlands, which tonally I'm not super on board. Cocaine-fueled Bolivia and the cartel is taking it over, but the gameplay looked fun. It has that very Ubisoft style of co-op experience where you the people are talking with each other like no one ever talks with each other while they're playing multiplayer games. So it was kind of funny. It looked fine. That's out March 7th, 2017. Huge long demo of South Park Fractured But Whole, including gameplay, combat. That's out the end of this year, December 6th. That looked great. I'm excited because the Stick of Truth is coming to PS4, and I never got around to playing the Stick of Truth. Excited to play that one, though. Got some Division DLC. Eagle Flight, their VR game, they had a competitive PvP mode there, which looked interesting. Palmer Luckey came out on stage in his sandals. So it was always interesting. It actually looked really good, though. Snark aside, Eagle Flight looked really fun. And then even Snark aside for their other VR demo, Star Trek Bridge Crew looks great. I mean, that's childhood fantasy game right there, being able to play on the Star Trek bridge. But then, like, it just kept going and going. We got For Honor, we got a story trailer, which looked good, a Viking campaign gameplay, which looked great, but was very long. Something that got me really excited too was Grow Up, a sequel to Grow Home, kind of one of my surprise games of 2015. That looks great, got some time. But then we got Trials of the Blood Dragon, and Watch Dogs 2 in a long time, and Steep, this new open world game. And the thing is, I think that just the pacing was off, and we saw Assassin's Creed movie, unfortunately. That Ubisoft really took their time to go through these things, and I can appreciate that, but it loses the excitement. You lose that edge of keeping people on the edge of their seat. As it stands now, there were times I was checking my phone, checking Twitter, and not paying attention just because the things went on too long. Because, like, if you distill out what was in there, there's a lot of really cool things in there. South Park looked great to me, but especially Eagle Flight, For Honor, Star Trek Bridge Crew, and Grow Up really, really kind of excited me. I thought it was a little bit strange to end the press conference, and I get that Ubisoft ends on the new IP, and the new IP is Steep here, which is this open world action sports game. It's out this winter, but I don't know if they expect that to be a big seller, because that it doesn't look like it's going to stir up that kind of excitement to get people to buy to be this new big Ubisoft IP. But just that kind of represented the pacing problems that happen here. They could have cut out half an hour. They could have cut out an hour and just condensed it down to something a little bit more digestible. But, look, certainly this was way better than EA, better than PC Gaming Show. There's a lot of great things in there. It makes me excited about Ubisoft's portfolio. I just wish that maybe they had trimmed it down. And then we have one more press conference today, which is Sony. Last but not least, we have Sony. I'm skipping Nintendo. Sony will be the last one in this video here. So let's get it going. Sony had a lot that they had to live up to after Xbox's press conference this morning. Xbox had, it's quick, rapid, boom, 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 game, reveal, new console, 2 new consoles. And Sony, I'm recording this right after Sony's press conference finished, and man, Sony has gotten ridiculously good at press conferences, and I'm going to say it now just in the heat of reaction here. This is reaction, of course, that I think Sony won again. Not without caveats, but let's get into what they actually showed and why Sony why I was going crazy in the apartment, and it just my fingers were flying a mile a minute trying to tweet everything out, and I just could not believe the amount and the games themselves that got released. So before the event even started, we had the PlayStation people were talking to me. We had a trio of new trailers, new information before the show. During the pre-show event, we got some information about Abzu, Bound, and Pyre, which all look exceptional. If you haven't heard about them, you should go look them up. Abzu coming out this fall, or actually late summer, August 2nd. Bound got a new trailer, no new information there, but that was one of my highlights from PlayStation Experience. And then Pyre, of course, by Supergiant Games. I love Bastion. I loved Transistor, one of my favorite games of 2015. Or 2014, I think. And Pyre looks great. But then Sony opened its PlayStation press conference with a live orchestral performance, so that was really cool. And music that I was like, I couldn't put my finger on. I'm like, what exactly is going on here? And I even was like, this sounds like God of War, but it's not a distinctly God of War song. Well, then the song kind of gave way into a gameplay trailer that wasn't sure what it was, and then all of a sudden, old man Kratos pops out of the house. God of War is real. This is the official title for it, so I'm guessing they're going with a full reboot here. I suspected maybe it'd be God of War : Valhalla or something, because we saw this is set in Nordic mythology. You have dragons, you had a mention of Valhalla, you've got trolls. Kratos has a son, and there's a lot to unpack from this God of War reveal, because it's a long gameplay trailer. But we saw a couple things. Kratos has a son, and he's teaching him, and there's this kind of experience system where Kratos, whenever he teaches his son something, you gain some experience. So maybe the viewpoint switches over at some point. It's hard to know. The combat system looks very subdued. So God of War is traditionally super fast, in-your-face action, crazy game. You're restoring health, you're taking a lot of damage, but it doesn't matter because you're dishing out a lot of damage. This looks almost more Souls-like in that he did a couple blows, then dodged, and had to make sure he's out of the way. So it looks like they're ramping it down. And a lot of people were saying this. I agree. It looked like a love child of God of War, old school God of War with The Last of Us. It's crazy that we saw so much. This is in development. A lot of these games we'll talk about tonight is in development, and that's my kind of one big negative takeaway from the event. But yeah, it looked great. And then keeping with the breakneck pace of this conference was insane. We went right into Days Gone, the new Sony Bend game. Again, they'd been working on this game for 5 years. We hadn't seen anything from them in 5 years. This is an open world motorcycle riding zombie game. We saw a little bit of a trailer, and then at the very end of the press conference, we had a gameplay reveal that looked okay. It wasn't exceptional, didn't really blow me away, but it looked good enough to get me and keep me excited. But went right then into The Last Guardian, got confirmed October 25th release date. Whew, please, now that it has a release date, please don't fall out of here. It's been way too long. It's been like 10 years since the game was announced. I'm excited for Last Guardian. I'm just going to not think about it, though, because I don't want to think about it until it comes out. Then we got a new gameplay demo from Horizon Zero Dawn, where they showed the quest system, they showed maps, they showed how you can hack enemy animals and use them as companions. Kind of got some more hints of the story there. That's looking great. Again, that was confirmed just before E3 that it was missing its 26th release date, coming out now at the end of February 2017. And then we got a reveal from David Cage's Quantic Dreams, Detroit Become Human, showing that yes, indeed, it's going to be very Beyond Two Souls and Heavy Rain-like, and that your decisions matter and everything has consequences. And it was a cool narrative event where it's a hostage situation, and Detroit again has that really cool AIs becoming sentient based off of the Kara tech demo. It looks great. I'm so excited for that. Again, this is another one that's in development. We don't really know when or how far along it is, but it looked great. And then we went right into a VR demo that was they mentioned it was related to The Kitchen, which was the Capcom's kind of horror PSVR demo. And then at the end of that, we found out that this was a demo for Resident Evil 7, subtitle Biohazard. It's coming out January 24th, 2017, and it'll be fully playable in VR, but as well as playable in not VR. That is crazy. And then a demo's coming up too. Horror VR intrigues and terrifies me, but it's kind of cool to see Resident Evil coming back to its horror roots, because 5 and 6, not good games. Then we got a kind of suite of PSVR games with Farpoint, X-Wing, a Battlefront mission, Batman Arkham is having some sort of VR experience around PlayStation VR launch. Final Fantasy 15, one of the characters, Prompto, you can play as him since he uses like a gun in a PSVR mode. It's insane. We got a pretty meaty demo for Call of Duty Infinite Warfare that looked good. I'm not going to get that game, but it looked fine. And then Sean Layden walked out on the stage to Crash Bandicoot music. He had on the stage projected with his reflection of Crash Bandicoot, announcing that Sony is working with Activision to remaster Crash Bandicoots 1, 2, and 3. And then there was some Crash Bandicoot being in Skylanders, but nobody cares. It looked horrible. But that's insane. People have been predicting this forever. Sure, it's not a new Crash game, but like I've said on the podcast before, you don't really want a new Crash game. They're a nice timepiece, but remastering them certainly can bring you back that nostalgia, improve the graphics. Maybe they can make the controls a little bit less wonky. That's super exciting. People love Crash Bandicoot. I love Crash Bandicoot. I'm tentatively excited for remasters. And then we got some Lego Star Wars. But then Hideo Kojima came out on the stage, and this is not too big of a surprise, because Hideo Kojima, we know that he has this partnership with PlayStation. But we get him showing trailer. It was a gameplay trailer, or not gameplay, it was a cinematic trailer for his new game. It's starring Norman Reedus, so getting us back to that PT promise. And it has a name, Death Stranding. So the trailer is the most Kojima trailer that ever Kojima'd, with Norman Reedus being fully nude and attached to an umbilical cord to a baby, and men floating in the sky, and dead sea life are all around. But it's enough to get me excited. Okay, this one also in development, probably 2019 at the earliest, maybe. But then really they wrap things up with Insomniac. This was a crazy rumor. Again, the whole PlayStation press conference was just, hey, those games that have been rumored to be PlayStation forever that are that are a combination of fan wish fulfillment and just wishful thinking, well, they're real. So Insomniac is making a Spider-Man game. That's right, this is the team behind Infamous. They're making a Spider-Man game. It's coming to PS4. It looks awesome. I couldn't think of a better dev to make a Spider-Man game, and I can't believe I care about a Spider-Man game coming out. But this just caps up the whole thing. So Sony was non-stop, breakneck, game release after game trailer after game trailer after getting people excited. Their suite of games, of course I'm a little bit biased here with my PlayStation Experience shirt on, really spoke to me. I think a big note here is Sony was predominantly first party for the first time this generation. They've been relying so heavily on third-party partnerships, but this, for the first time, they start off with 5 first-party titles in a row, back to back to back to back to back. So it's great to see some first parties, what they're working on actually coming out and being shown on PlayStation 4. And again, this one caveat that I've mentioned all throughout is that unlike Xbox's press conference, where everything was very tangible, it's close. The furthest games out were probably end of 2017. These games are 2018 plus, 2019. We could even see some 2020 games here, maybe, hopefully, hopefully not. I think the thing that makes it work for me is that E3 is all about excitement, and Sony does have a lot coming. PSVR, they announced, is coming out October 13th, though there's no new pre-order options, so please release those. But they got people excited. They got me excited. Like, every time I watch Sony's press conference, I'm just on the edge of my seat the entire time. This press conference was all meat, no fat, just trailer after trailer. So little. Like, Shuhei Yoshida didn't even come out on stage and talk to the people. So it's just crazy. I'm still reacting to it. I'm sure Nintendo tomorrow is going to be disappointment, so I'm not even going to talk about it here. But what a great way to end E3 Monday. E3 was changing this year, but I think, if they can keep it as focused on the games like this, I think E3 is in a good place for years to come. So what did you think about E3 2016? Which press conference was your favorite? EA is not the right answer. I don't care who you are. I think PlayStation won, but yeah. So for everything The Impact Factor, check out the links in the description. We have a weekly podcast, a blog that updates weekly, plenty more E3 to come. Thanks for watching. Till next time, make an impact.